What's up everyone, and welcome back to part 4 of building a house in the country. And in this video we're going to talk about concrete, we're going to talk about plumbing, and we're going to talk about the windows because that is what the builders have got done up till this point. So when picking windows, there are a couple options that we considered. The first of which will be the dual color. So you can tell on the inside they are white, on the outside they are black. So that is a dual color window. Now the one thing that will limit is they make options where they have blinds inside of the windows, where there's just a knob. You can close the blinds, you could open the blinds. But in dual color windows, that's not an option because the blinds have to be one color on both sides, and that means the window has to be one color on both sides. Now another option they have as an upgrade is whenever you open the window, instead of screens being put in where you would see the screen through the window, whenever you open the window, the screen would rise up from the bottom, so you would never actually see it until the window's open. We chose not to go with that option. Now, one upgrade we did make intentionally was these windows are double hung windows, and why that is because they're so low, and because this is so high off the ground, we didn't want the dogs playing or the kids playing and falling out the window or having to keep the windows closed. So what this allows us to do is instead of opening them up from the bottom, we can open them down from the top, and that means we can have all 4 of these big windows open. The kids can be playing around, the dogs can be playing, we don't have to worry about anything, but we will be able to get fresh air into the house. We also had to change the windows in our main bedroom, and that is because we pulled the garage out a little bit, which raised the roof up. These were originally supposed to be skinnier and longer. They need to be a certain threshold in bedrooms to escape in the case of a fire. So because we extended the garage, which brought the roof up a little, these windows would no longer fit and they need to be made a little bit wider. I actually like the way these windows look better than the original windows that were supposed to come with the house. If you are building a custom home, add as many windows as you want. It is so cheap to add windows in the process of building a house versus after the house is done, then it's a huge undertaking. So not only did we add all the windows in the great room area that you saw, we also added a window in the kitchen. Even small changes like this, I think this window in the kitchen cost us another couple $100 to add. We had to completely redo the layout of the kitchen because cabinets were supposed to go there. But if we would want to do that after we moved in the house, that would be a whole kitchen remodel versus just adding the window, shifting the layout of stuff, which cost a couple $100. The next thing we're going to talk about is plumbing and the water lines, and this is usually done before the concrete is poured because a lot of the plumbing will run under the concrete floor in the basement. So as far as plumbing, there aren't many adjustments we did there. We did add some floor drains to the garage, but the biggest change we made was the house comes default with PVC being used for water lines. Because of the horror stories I've heard about that, I wanted to upgrade to PEX, which this is PEX. You have a red line for hot, a blue line for cold. From what I read, it's also more flexible and more tolerable to if something freezes or if there's movement in the pipes, they're not as fragile. And then once you do decide you're going to go with PEX, you need to make the decision if you're going to have a mana block or if you're going to have shared runs. I chose shared runs. A mana block would be more expensive, take up more room in the basement, and be more material. But what a mana block gives you is a home run line to every appliance. We can see we have one hot and one cold line running upstairs, and they're going to service all the bathrooms. If this was a mana block, you would have multiple runs going upstairs. You would have multiple colds for the different utilities. You wouldn't even have them just split out by room. You would have them split out by appliance. I don't really see a justification for spending the other money for those, but if you understand any, leave them in the comments down below for other people to learn from. As far as I know, you'll be able to shut off one thing as you're working on another. So let's say you had one bathroom and you wanted to shut off the sink, but leave the toilet running, you could do that where you couldn't do that with a shared line. But the con is if you are running hot water in your sink and you want to fill up the bathtub, you need to wait for hot water to make it through that line in the bathtub because it's not using the same shared line as the sink. Now for the water, we also did provide directions of any additional spigots or return lines that we want to run. So we have a hot and cold spigot out in the garage. We also have hookups for a sink out in the garage. And then around the house, we have a couple hose hookups, hose bib hookups on the outside, one on the back for an outdoor kitchen, both hot and cold water, and then one on the side that'll just be for a hose that is just cold water. So now that we're downstairs, we see the pipes running in and being directed through the concrete. Another decision we had to make when it comes to water and plumbing is what type of water heater we want. Now, the normal standard water heater is a hot water tank that water gets heated up, stays heated in that tank, and you use water from that tank. What we went with is an instant water heater, and that means that there's no hot water sitting. As cold water comes through the water heater, it runs through the pipes, it heats it up, so you have instant hot water, and you will not run out of hot water. So if you've ever went to get a shower, somebody else showered before you, or washed clothes, or did dishes, and there's no hot water left for you, that is because there is a hot water tank and not an instant hot water heater, so hopefully we never have that problem in this house. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is the concrete floors. There's not much to talk about here. So we do have a couple clips of the concrete being laid and the multiple concrete trucks coming in, them spreading it, and all of that good stuff. Now, once it was finished the one day, they did come back the next day, and they cut stress cracks in the concrete. Cutting these cracks allow you to dictate where the concrete will crack, when it settles. And now my favorite part of being done with the concrete is the massive garage that is one step closer to being done. I can actually start to plan out where stuff will go. I had the walkthrough with the electrician already, which we will talk about in the next video where I go over electrical. These are where the floor drains are, and you can see there's a cut right along the middle, and then there are several cuts as you go along. For the garages, they did put a full layer of gravel underneath. So they dug out down to the foundation, and then they backfilled everything with gravel. So the reason that is dirt will settle, and then there will be a gap between your floor, and then depending on how heavy the machinery or whatever you put in, there could be some cracking. With gravel, it's already 90% compacted, so you won't have that much settling. It should lead to a longer lifespan of the concrete floor. And that wraps up part 4 of building a home in the country. If you learned anything, hit that like and subscribe, and I'll catch you all for the next video, which should be electric and HVAC.